Blog Talk Radio.
Recruiting Animal here on October 31st, Halloween 2018. I just want to tell you that we had a chat the other day on Facebook, yesterday, about recruiters speaking their minds about politics and public issues on social media. And I want to remind everybody that in the past, you weren't allowed to speak your mind. You got into big trouble if you did. And there's still plenty of places in the world where that's still true. But by some miracle, there's societies today in which people can speak their minds without fear. And we're lucky to live in one of them. And, you know, that's important because people, I know I'm telling you basic stuff, but it has to be said because people learn by speaking with each other. Someone says something wrong, and you show him why it's wrong. And in doing so, you're forced to sharpen your own thinking and maybe discover that you're wrong, okay? But that doesn't mean that you're not going to have problems if you speak out. Just because you're doing something so righteous and elevated, you might lose business or have trouble if you're in your career. If you say something and someone you deal with regularly doesn't like what you say. But that doesn't mean, in principle, that talking about controversial issues is wrong and that you're stupid and that you should be embarrassed in any way. No, you shouldn't. And I'll admit that we'll jump all over you here if we don't like what you say. And in fact, today's guest got all kinds of flack from the callers last time. He was here just a few months ago, but he's back again today. And you know why? Because we like cognitive diversity. Yes! On Jerry. What show is this?
The Recruiting Animal Show!
What has happened to you? What happened? I started the music early just because you're always complaining that I wait too long, and you didn't even make it through.
I stopped my shout earlier. Last week, you told me it was too much. I mean,
yeah, it was too much last week. This one, it sounded like you were on your deathbed. I'm not paying you for that. Okay.
Hold on a second. Yes, you are.
We'll discuss it later. Off the show.
You want another one? The Recruiting Animal Show! Oh, you gonna start the music?
You know, no, you're not hitting the high notes today. We got to move on, okay? People are always complaining.
I had band practice last night. It wore me out.
Yeah.
We learned a Bon Jovi tune, and it's a top
it took it out of you. You weren't hitting the high notes. If you were an opera singer, you'd be in bad trouble today. Okay, I want to thank my sponsors, Honeit, Honeit, the online interview technology, HireTool, HireTual, the super-duper sourcing tool, and PC Recruiter. You know what that is, Jerry? The Swiss Army knife of recruiting software. Okay, and before I bring on Tom Chamorro, the guest for today, he's waiting patiently in the green room. Tom Chamorro-Premuzic. He's got quite a fancy name. He's got a fancy name.
It.
Okay, look at the listing. Okay, I'll say it in a second.
I don't have time to get on Facebook during the business day.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I want to say something before I introduce the guest. I went to dinner last night with the speakers at the Sourcing Summit. There was a conference here, and I realized that people like you and me live in a bubble. There was a few people there who already knew me. Half the people, they never heard of the show. They never heard of our Facebook groups. In the big wide world out there, we're nothing special. We're nobodies, and I'm only concerned that the sponsors are going to find that out someday. But that means we're good.
Group?
The guest today is going to argue that humility is a really good thing, and not too many men have it. So if we learn our lesson...
I'm as humble as you can get, and I tell everybody.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're going to see that in a minute. Okay. Tomas, Tomas. I have to spell his name. Chamorro, Chamorro hyphen Premuzic, Premuzic. Yeah, okay. His Twitter name is simple, DRTCP, at DRTCP.
Dr. TCP?
DRTCP. Tom, welcome back to the show. I'm really happy to have you here. I'm a big fan of your articles. I think you're the best writer about recruiting online right now, even if I don't always agree with you, right? It's just really interesting to read, okay? Thanks for coming back.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me back. I am in fancy costume today because it's Halloween.
Yes, good. I didn't know. In Argentina, do they have Halloween?
Well, no, but I adjust to American rituals and traditions.
Good for you, yeah.
Very,
okay,
very smooth, yes.
What about this last name, Chamorro-Premuzic? How do you get something like that? I mean, that must be a hassle in the United States.
I love the way you pronounce it. It almost sounds French, which is elevating it. But I'm from Argentina. The first part of the name is Spanish. The second part is from Croatia, where my mom was born.
Oh, okay. And so you use your mother's last name at the end?
Yes. It's quite common in Spain, less common in Argentina. I think my parents just knew they were gonna get divorced when I was born, so they planned for it in advance. And my mom imposed her name into the whole kind of configuration.
Okay, and it's got nothing to do with music like instruments. It's just... It
does not. It will be nicer. And I remember 10 years ago, so when I was doing research into musical preferences, some people accused me of making up the name just to get more notoriety. Actually, what it means, Premuzic, Prvi mužić, means the first husband, which I'm not either, but that's what it means.
How do you say it? Like one more time. Just we'll finish with this, everybody. How do you say it?
The pronunciation is Premuzic, and it means it's short for Prvi mužić, which is the first husband.
Premuzic. Okay, now I know how to say your name, and people will even have a harder time spelling it. Okay. Anyway, this guy's the chief talent scientist at the Manpower Group. What is the Manpower Group?
It's a global recruitment business mostly, but it goes beyond that, and we provide all sort of services in the human capital or workforce solution space. But mostly 90% of our business is putting people to work, so we're a recruitment staffing business.
Okay, and it's good that you're here on Halloween because you sound a bit like Dracula, Okay, and your motto is...
You didn't ask me what I'm dressed as, which was the punchline of my joke.
Okay, go ahead. I'm not that curious. Go ahead.
I'm
not that open.
I picked something really scary for you guys, so I'm dressed as Data, which I know you fear. Ha.
Data, like Data from Star Trek? Yeah, these guys are really funny, isn't he?
The Data as in science, or if you prefer, an assessment. Ooh.
Okay, yeah. Well, you've got a motto that I'm going to mention that I like. I use science and tech to predict human performance. That's nice, and it's the best tagline that I've come across. Okay.
Thank you. It took me many weeks to come up with that, so I'm glad it's appreciated.
Great one, yeah. Okay, so his big thing, yeah, okay, Jerry, stop breathing. I'm going to get to that. Jerry's already criticizing me.
It wasn't me, dude.
Jerry's very
you were before the show.
Tomas, how you doing?
Tom believes that men are crappy leaders and women are good leaders. I'm stating it bluntly. He's going to deny that, but that's what he believes. And I'll quote him. He says, "We have a natural tendency to elect self-centered, overconfident, narcissistic people as leaders, and these characteristics appear more often in men than women." Am I right? That's what you believe?
Correct.
Why?
Well, if you look at I guess there are two data points that support that statement. The first is that the majority of leaders are pretty incompetent. Whether you look at politicians or business leaders, the bar is really very low. We also know that in the majority of cases, those leaders are males. So, typically we assume that leadership is something good, aspirational, desirable, and that it's linked to success. But if you actually evaluate the performance of the leaders, it's mostly pretty dismal. And then the second point is that if you look at the qualities that actually make people lead effectively, things like humility, self-awareness, modesty, emotional intelligence, empathy, and competence, women have a slight advantage compared to men on those traits. So I think, we prefer incompetent leaders to competent leaders, and we prefer males to females in general. Whether people choose leaders democratically or just sit and wait, this is what seems to be happening in most spheres of life.
Hi there, I'm Peter Zollman. I'm a co-host of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast.
And I'm Stephen Rothberg, and I guess that makes me the other co-host.
Every other week, we're joined by guests from the world's leading job sites.
Together, we analyze news about general, niche, and aggregator job board and recruitment marketplaces sites.
Make sure you sign up and subscribe today.
Okay, so you seem to say that, you gave an example. You also said that a lot of what we look for, the characteristics we look for in a leadership or that are mythologically the signs of good leadership are actually signs of personality disorders. Am I right about that?
Well, I think that the characteristics we should look for are very different from personality disorders. They are positive, pro-social traits that make leadership a resource for the group or the organization.
Yeah, but you made Steve Jobs. I read your article.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you. People are always mad now that I interrupt people. But you said you made Steve Jobs sound like a mental case. Richard Branson. You didn't. I don't know if you mentioned Elon Musk. I can't remember. Was Steve Jobs a good leader in your opinion?
I think Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, and the type of leaders that we are fascinated by do have a lot of antisocial and even psychopathological tendencies. The problem is, well, it's not a problem. It's actually a good thing for them and for society that these bad traits or bad features also coexist with incredible amounts of talent, creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, whereas most of the people who are as obnoxious or antisocial as these characters are actually pretty talentless. And guess what? These are the people that most individuals or employees have as bosses. They have the bad side of Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, and Richard Branson, to name just a few, without the benefits, without the strengths or the talents.
Okay, and you also said, I think, that most people are insecure, or I think you're referring to Freud, so they're attracted to somebody who is overconfident, who can give them that sense of certainty about the future. Is that why people want to see that overconfident people?
I think, and I did say that, but I think a clearer or more sensible explanation is that some individuals are unaware of their limitations, and although that should be a problem for them, for their careers, and it should actually stop them from becoming leaders, ironically or paradoxically, when you are unaware of your limitations and you think you're better than you actually are, you are more able to fool others into thinking that you're good, which is how people who are overconfident and not very talented manage to deceive others. It's always easier to deceive other people if you have already deceived or fooled yourselves. So this is, I think, what happens fundamentally, and that's why so many leaders are incompetent, because they have managed to fool us or others into thinking that they're talented when in fact they're not. Why? Because they have no self-awareness and they're unjustifiably pleased with themselves.
Okay.
Man, this guy is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds like you'd be.
This guy is strong.
Well.
I'm just going to sit here and take notes. Animal.
Anybody?
Help me out for the rest of the show. I'm just listening.
A few more things. Anybody's
like
welcome to jump.
He's the best.
So it's not that ignorance is bliss; it's that ignorance is a way to success.
Got it.
Exactly. I think it's a way.
I'm on my way to the top. This is making me feel great.
It's a way to success for those individuals, but it's a problem for society. It's a problem for organizations. It's a problem for teams. And this is where I think the gender issue becomes relevant and interesting, that we don't tolerate displays of overconfidence and hubris in women. When women seem arrogant, too bold, or hubristic, or overly cocky, we don't accept that. But when it's men, then we just fall in love with them. And so the solution is not actually to be deceived or fooled by women who are more confident than they should be, or less competent than they think they are, but actually to apply the same criteria and the same standard when it comes to vetting or judging men. And then we will end up with fewer incompetent leaders.
How do you know that we don't? Hold on, this thing about women that we if they act assertive, we don't like them. I don't think that's true. Do you have any proof? Do you have any support of that?
So there's a lot of social psychological studies that look at how men and women are perceived when they behave in more or less confident ways. And typically when men behave in very assertive, dominant, confident ways, which you can do just showing people videos of actors or real people, but the key is that these targets that people are evaluating are unfamiliar, so not people that you already know and have been exposed to. When they're men and they behave in assertive ways, people say, oh, they are charismatic, they're leader-like, I would trust this person, whoa, they're very competent. And when the same behaviors are displayed by women, the women are labeled, bulldozers, cocky, arrogant, overconfident, and so forth. And by the way, this actually also creates a problem for men, because when men display some of the characteristics that we should look for in leaders, humility, self-criticism, empathy, warmth, and being other-oriented, not self-centered, they're often dismissed as weak. So the same pathological criteria that are put in place to select leaders that are not the ones we should actually have harm.
Okay, hold on. Wait a second.
Hey, Animal, quick technical point of reference. You need to open up area code 626, would you?
Okay, just so Tom knows, I won't mention the name because I got a personal message here. But somebody we know says, I'm listening, and I'm a great leader, and I'm nuts. I think he felt good when Tom said that a lot of these leaders are mentally ill. Everybody, Area 626 is open. Everybody's open, Jerry.
Okay.
Don't scroll.
Thanks.
Who is area code 626? You want to say something so bad you had to sick Jerry on me? Who is it?
I didn't try to sick Jerry on you, Animal. It was just I was on the other line, and I know you don't like it when I'm on a cell phone. So I'm just apologizing.
It's Alan.
That's Alan? Doesn't even sound like him.
Oh,
okay,
Paul.
well, let me do a survey. Jerry, do you feel that you're biased against confident women? Do they turn you off? I don't think they turn me off.
I've never met one, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding. Oh, my God, I can't believe I said that. No, I don't know. No, I like confident business women. Yeah, I work with them, and yeah. No, I'm not bummed out by it or disappointed or any of that. No.
Yeah. Okay. Michael G. Cox. Do you like meek women that make you feel like a real man, or do you like people who are your equal? He's sleeping. Okay. What about Alan? Now that you forced me to open
I'd like to weigh in on this.
Go ahead. Who is it?
This is TJ. TJ Castaning.
Oh, hi, TJ. Go ahead.
Hey, so Thomas seems to be setting up a little bit of a straw man about taking all these pot shots at men, and I won't deny that in some general sense some of these things can be true. But ultimately, this does seem like an awfully broad brush to be painting with, and I'd like to know how these specific criticisms of an entire gender work out in his recruiting practice?
Well, he's not a hands-on recruiter, but go ahead. You could address that if you can, Tom.
No, well, I mean, I think it's a very good question, and it's not. I'm not trying to make a general rule, or I'm not making statements that apply to every individual of the male class. The question was posed in a very kind of a clear-cut way. Are women better? But really what we have here is differences that are statistically significant. On average, and it might just be, a very minor difference, but it's still significant. On average, if you look at how women perform on things such as, test of emotional intelligence, empathy, modesty, self-awareness, on average, they have a slight advantage, and it might be that if they're equal would mean 50-50. What you just implied is that 100% of the time they're better. No, it might be that it's 60 or 65% of the time women outperform men. But this 10 or 15% of advantage does scale and explain a lot of the differences that we actually perceive or measure when it comes to leadership effectiveness. Then to your other point, I think it's more important.
Go ahead. Let me just say, I don't know if it's Alan, but somebody's on a bad line and they're adding a lot of static to the show. Maybe they could put themselves on mute.
Seems better now.
There. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say something else. Wait a second. I'll let you come back.
What's going on?
Daryl Disco is on Twitter. The guy listens to the show once in a blue moon now, and he has to take a back. He says, I must feel nostalgic. I'm listening to the show. Like it's not worth listening to anymore. It's worth listening to, okay? Don't do that to me. Okay, go ahead, TJ. Well, we've got TJ now. TJ's he's never been on the show before, right? We don't need you old listeners. Go ahead, please.
Yeah,
thanks.
The second part of the question, I think, is more important, how it affects or how this finding, let's say that on average women are better or have more potential for leadership, how it affects a recruitment strategy or recruitment practice. Personally, I think it shouldn't. You should not use any group categories to decide whether somebody should be placed in a job or has potential for a job. You need to work at the individual level. So actually, it's understanding the potential, the history, the past performance, the qualities and the traits that an individual has that determines whether you think that person has potential or not for a job. And actually, if you can be blind to their gender, then better. But the problem is that more often than not, the methods that we use, such as face-to-face interview or interviews in general, put gender in front of all these qualities that actually matter more. It's a bit like saying height is an important driver of job performance, so I will look for the tallest candidate, as opposed to saying I will automatically select men because on average men are taller than women. You have to actually focus on the trait that matters.
Okay, let me ask a question. It sounds to me, though, like before I forget things. That's why I have to interrupt. It sounds like these qualities that you've said are the ones that attract us in leaders, that they might be rooted in our actually evolution in our brain, that these guys the men are going to be the fighters for the tribe, and we want somebody who seems confident as a fighter. Is that possible and it's going to take culture to overcome a natural impulse to braggarts or whatever these guys are?
Yes, although I should note that it hasn't always been that way. In even earlier versions of human society than when the kind of larger cities or nations were led by these strong alpha males that you described. In even earlier and smaller versions of civilization societies, we lived in very egalitarian groups that were actually often ruled or led by women. So, to your point, yes, culture can lead to cyclical changes in the perceptions that people have within a system or society as to what leadership talent or leadership competence means.
I was saying that it's
and
not rooted in culture.
At any given point in time, today, for example, the stereotype or the archetype that people have of an ideal leader will be different, for example, in the East and in the West, or in even North America compared to Britain. And these are societies or systems that are very, very similar,
right?
And
That's
yet,
obvious.
yeah, the degree to which you show off or you self-deprecate, the degree to which you show strength or self-criticism varies from one system to the other. And actually, the degree to which we look for one thing or the other as a sign or signal of leadership varies during the same phase or process of time from one culture to the other.
Hold on a second. What about all these political leaders like Stalin and Mao? One's from Russia, one from China. It's the same cultish, kind of pattern. That's what people want. It seems anywhere.
No, that's leadership by fear and execution.
Maybe.
And I think in the grand scheme of things, you are picking people who are part of a very condensed and narrow slice of human history.
Look at your country with the Peronism. Look at your country, Argentina. I mean, that's also
same process in time. You're picking 50 years of human history, when in fact, at least the total length that you should be considering is at least 10,000 years, but actually probably if you really want to go back to our evolutionary beginnings, more like 200,000 years. And these 50 years is it's a split second in the history of mankind or evolution.
Okay, but what about, also this image of the leader, the overconfident person that you say, we want someone who eats his own dog food. That's what impresses us. I think that would make a good recruiter as well. You call somebody up, you're excited, you actually convince yourself that whatever job you're promoting is fantastic, and you convey that to the potential candidate. Is it true? That's going to be a good recruiter. Would you agree with that?
I would kind of change the scenario slightly and say, the least controversial thing in the world, which is that I think in any field of performance, including recruitment, it is better to have somebody competent than somebody incompetent, right? Here we agree.
Oh, yeah, I don't understand what you said, but I have to do an ad. Sure. Does anybody have some questions?
Yeah, I think that's what
I've got questions.
What does that mean, competent?
Here's a slightly controversial thing, maybe, that sometimes we're actually not able to evaluate how competent people are, and that applies to recruiters as well. And then, if these recruiters or individuals are confident, we're more likely to fall for them and believe that they are talented or competent, even if they're not. And then we pay the price later when we fall for somebody who actually seems more competent than they actually are.
Okay, so they'll pick the wrong people, but they'll succeed in getting those people interested and selling them to the company. All the sales aspect will work because of the confidence, but in fact you're putting a round peg in a square hole.
But I would argue that if we have two people who are equally competent, equally talented, I would personally even prefer the one who is underconfident and not overconfident, because that person will be more likely to question themselves, not get complacent, be open to other people's perspective, not be the center of attention all the time, the risk of being deceived, deluded, and making mistakes will be lower in that individual. Of course, I fully admit that from a selling, branding, impressing others perspective, the person who is overconfident will succeed more. All I'm saying is, it shouldn't necessarily be that way if we were able to identify how competent and talented they are, and the two individuals are the same.
Okay. I'm going to do an ad.
Run your ad, Animal, and then I've got another question to line up for this guy.
Okay, but hold on. We got to, TJ, I'm glad you're here, but I got to let somebody else ask questions as well. Let me do an ad first, though. They're buying my coffee money, okay? Okay? And that's all they're paying for. They're not making me rich. I want everyone to know it, okay? Hone It. And I got to give money to Jerry, too. Hone It, Honeit. You know what that is? It's phone interview technology. It records your interviews and turns the key questions and answers into separate audio clips to help hiring managers quickly hear the motivation, the personality, the enthusiasm that the recruiter just heard. Yeah, when you can share a story with a hiring manager in the candidate's own voice, it speaks volumes. You can't get that from a resume or a recruiter's report. So if you want to get a hiring manager excited about a great candidate, share some of the sizzle with Hone It, Honeit. And look, if you like reading better than listening, it automatically turns the interview into a searchable, readable transcript as well. Hone It IT. And boy, you know, after we've been criticizing people who have a lot of flair, I mean, are these? I'll ask a question before we go to the group again. But so, how do you assess the good CEO or the good manager? It sounds like they're going to be unimpressive people. The unimpressive people are good. That was making Michael Cox feel good before the show. I posted that, and he said, "This is going to be a show I like. It means I'm good because I'm going to seem good." What's the story there, Tom?
What does it really take to lead with impact in today's ever-evolving world? Welcome to Inside the C-Suite, the podcast where influence, energy, innovation, and empathy converge. Hi, I'm Christy Honeycutt, your host. Join me as I sit down with the boldest voices in leadership, visionaries who are not just making decisions, but making a difference. In every episode, we explore the heart of leadership. How do high-performing leaders harness their energy? How do they lead with empathy without losing their edge? How do they turn disruption into innovation and pressure into purpose? You'll hear unfiltered stories of adversity, resilience, and the raw moments that shaped true influence. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence, passion, and the energetic exchange that fuels transformation. Inside the C-Suite is your invitation to lead from a deeper place with intention, connection, and courage. If you're ready to go beyond the surface and unlock what really moves leaders to action, hit subscribe and step inside. You can find us wherever you get your podcast fix. Inside the C-Suite, well, we're an energetic exchange. Let's lead with influence, live with energy, and create with empathy.
Yeah, well, I think there is a bit of that the best leaders in general are pretty boring. If you think about managers first, what do they need to do? Focus on their employees, understand them, know them well, provide them with constructive, critical feedback on their performance, manage their performance as fairly as they can, assign them to the right task. In essence, they have to spend more time thinking of other people, the people they manage, than on themselves and, being the center of attention, being colorful, exotic,
yeah, but
flamboyant.
You said also in
another
article, you said that extroverts are better at assessing people's personalities, right? Didn't you say that? They're better people.
That
I don't agree.
Yes, they are.
That is not so.
I do.
Not really a related
I
point.
don't.
I think there are differences in how well people read others, but the reality is that your classic highly extroverted individual will be too busy wanting to be the center of attention all the time to focus on other people, whether they can.
Yeah, but you said those guys are better.
Ability.
They're proven better at assessing personality in others. Now you're walking back on that, right?
No.
One thing is
that they can. One thing is the ability to do something. The other thing is the tendency to do it. Even if they can, in experimental situations, pick up clues from others better, most of the time they're too busy being the center of attention and showing off to actually care about others.
Okay, that's a little too subtle for me, that you've got the ability, but you're not using it because your other inclinations.
No, this happens all the time. A
No,
lot of
it's
people
not.
in any job have the ability, but then they don't have the inclination. This is why engagement and motivation are so critical, because the main problem that most managers and organizations have is how they can get people to perform to the best of their capabilities most of the time. And most of the time people are cruising. It's only when they're put on the spot or when they're watched that they actually bother making their performance as strong as they possibly can.
Okay, who was it? Alan? Who's next? Alan? Who was complaining there? Alan?
Well, I think a lot of what he's talking about, if you want to take stereotypes, is kind of the bad boy thing. Why is it that stereotypically, girls go for the bad boy because he's more exciting and more interesting and more extroverted, and then after a couple of years they end up marrying the quieter, duller, responsible, nice guy who's kind of like the good father. Regarding introverts or extroverts, I think both. I think both can be, introverts and extroverts, I think can both be good at reading people. And as far as leaders go, it's also what the marketplace wants to hear is what will get promoted, where if you've got the dull, boring guys that are running good companies, staying under the radar, isn't attractive to Wall Street, who wants to see the flashy Elon Musk so they can pump up the IPO value so they can go make more. It's a greed issue, and it's their market issue. So I love companies where the people are quiet and they're just very successful. And back to another point, some of my best relationships were with women and with men, but women were on balance a little more open to the conversation, a back and forth, and not just looking at it and saying, well, Michael G. Cox said this, and I don't like the Raiders, so whatever else he says is wrong.
Okay, so
whatever.
You're agreeing with Tom 100%. Okay, I don't know why you.
No, I think we mostly agree. I don't know if it's 100%, but it's certainly very high. Just to make my point, or try to make my point clearly here, all I'm saying is two things. First, that on average, leaders perform better when they are more competent, when they have better people skills, when they are more self-aware, when they are more humble, and when they're more coachable. And what I'm also saying is that there seems to be a disproportionate focus on leaders that resemble, the Wolf of Wall Street, and that actually enhances or fuels very pathological stereotypes that suggest to people that leaders actually have to be like that they have to be reckless risk takers, super confident, very bold, entertaining. Look, and the same applies to some degree to politics. I think for the last 20 U.S. elections or so, the best predictor of who wins is which candidate would you want to have a beer with. And the reality is that that's not a very relevant marker of presidential or leadership competence. It's something that people think matters when in fact it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Good job.
Hold on, Michael G. Cox, your line's open. Okay, do you want to say something? I asked for you a few minutes ago. Michael G. Cox, here's your moment in the sun. Are you going to take it or not? And if you don't, you're no good leader, okay? Or maybe that means you're a good leader.
Yeah, he's quiet. He's listening.
Yeah, okay. So did somebody else want to say something before I move on? Because I have another important topic.
Okay.
Anybody?
I'll ask a question.
Go ahead.
Is it Thomas or Tomas?
Tomas, but I'm
Tomas.
I'm whatever you prefer.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay, so I understand your point. Agreed. I've said the same thing about presidents before. However, so this is a big abstract theory concept. How does this affect your recruiting business?
I think maybe there are two main implications, and I think the first one is that in general, de-emphasizing the importance of charisma, confidence, or these things that in short-term interactions make us want to hire someone or be impressed by someone, and paying more attention to substance data on a candidate's potential or performance. So really it's de-emphasizing or trying to
cut the BS,
decrease the importance of charisma. I think would lead to better recruitment. That's the first one.
So you're doing that with assessments, metrics?
Well,
how are you doing that?
I think in general the principle is, and that was the second one, is basically paying less attention to your own intuition or gut feeling and trying to look for objective, reliable, predictive indicators of a person's future performance. Yes, assessments are, when well designed, scientifically validated assessments are a good vehicle for doing that, but they're not the only one. I think assessments are a vehicle to obtaining data that doesn't exist. So they're an artificial, standardized vehicle for
hold on a
gathering
second.
data that doesn't exist.
No lectures on this. So people, I'm letting you talk like people want me to, but no lectures. You say in your articles, fast impressions are very good. It takes 30 seconds to make up our minds about someone's intelligence and personality, and we make other assessments even faster, and these evaluations are surprisingly accurate, right?
Yeah, but we discussed this last time. It's if you can aggregate or look at average impressions of 10 or 15 raters, right? So even if they're looking at you for 30 seconds or a minute, or listeners, if you have listeners who never heard me speak or you speak before, and we crowdsource what they think about us, that would be a pretty good data point of our reputation that predicts how we behave in the future. But most of the time, the problem is that people just rely on their own individual opinion of you or something, and that's very subjective. That's not predictive.
In your article, it sounded like it is predictive, and that's when you said extroverts are better judges of character, and you walked away from that as well.
I think you're getting carried. I appreciate your loyal and steady readership, but you're getting fixated on a very trivial point here. It's not that important.
Just to defend myself, I'll read the essence of EQ. Okay. Is being more agreeable, emotionally stable, and extroverted. And people with these characteristics tend to be better at examining other people's characters, perhaps because they're less focused on themselves. And you came on the show and you said these Go ahead.
So you see, first of all, now it makes more sense because it's not just extroversion. We're talking about EQ. And one of the characteristics is to be more outgoing, but it's being less self-centered and more agreeable that are making the big difference here. And look, I have no issues with the idea that some recruiters, because they have a lot of EQ, are going to be pretty good in their intuitive evaluations of others. The problem is that most people who think they have high EQ and that they are very intuitive are not, and they still follow their gut feeling. Okay, so I think in general we would do better, to answer the question, to distrust manifestations of charisma, short-term kind of charm, etc., in the candidate, and secondly, distrust our own instincts and try to look for data points through either well-designed assessments or other things. I mean, a resume, past performance, 360s. There are lots of potential signals of a person's potential for a job.
Okay,
I think we're getting too hung up on
everybody.
The abstract.
I got to do an ad. Okay, the show's almost over. Okay, there's a lot of recruiting software out there, everybody, and these HR people, they're supposed to be level-headed, like we just talked about. Those guys with high EQ, but no, they like every new shiny thing. Okay, so they're always wanting to try something new. What you have to do to work with people like that is make it easy for them to switch software. That's why they can switch from what they're using now to your own software, and that's something PC Recruiter does for you. PC Recruiter offers two types of data conversion. A data conversion is when you switch to another recruiting software. One of those versions is fast and simple. I think that's what most people like. The other is custom-made for you. It depends on what kind of person you are, what kind of needs you have. I want to mention that I'm confused because I'm angry about that extrovert stuff. But if you were using PC Recruiter and you said, oh, you listened to some other person and said, oh, this other software is better, it's simpler, you're going to be happy with it, and you went to that other software, and now you're missing some of the features that you used to love on Recruiter, you didn't realize how great it was when you had it, don't be shy to come back. They like boomerang customers. They're not going to criticize you for leaving. They're just going to welcome you with open arms. So if you want to switch around, go ahead. You want to come back, please do. PCRecruiter.net. PCRecruiter.net. If you're a recruiter, PC Recruiter loves you. Okay, Tom, before the show's over, and I still have another ad to do, I want to talk about I got lots of info that I'm not going to get to just like last time, but I want to talk about the testing because I got a lot of complaints. Are you falling asleep, Jerry? Is that your problem?
Oh, sorry, I thought I had that on mute. No, this is great. This is great.
You know what, Jerry? I got to tell you, Tom. Jerry has an impressive personality. I mean, he's a very lively guy. He's funny. You're saying that he's not the right kind of guy for people to hire. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. I was thinking, does that mean Jerry's no good? I like Jerry.
No, I would be a bad hire.
No,
yeah?
And what I'm saying is that
I don't like people telling me what to do.
What I'm saying is that if we focus too much on those qualities, we're going to pay the price. And furthermore, I'm saying that we have been focusing on such qualities for many decades now, and the results are very clear. Most leaders are not very good.
Yeah, but even, you know what, I'm going to go off tangent. But first of all, I want to tell you, Jerry he's the singer in a rock band on the weekends. That's a bad sign, isn't it? If I saw that on his resume, I'd say, egomaniac, don't hire him. Is that true?
No, I mean, I would say it's an irrelevant signal here for if we
really?
are evaluating their... Yeah, because, it tells you nothing about his leadership potential.
How do you not know that?
Does. Pardon me?
No.
You didn't know that?
No,
yeah,
I mean,
okay, he does that. I'd say it means he's a histrionic type or whatever, lively, too lively, too extroverted.
But then there are better ways of assessing those qualities than looking at...
and we're going to talk about that. Tom, I'm going to cut you off.
It might also help.
Man, you got a lot of bad pink noise going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise. If someone's in their car, they should mute themselves, okay?
Ambient noise going on here. I don't like it.
I got to guess people are paying for me.
Alan's driving down the road with his cell phone
I'm remuting. Knock it off.
Speakerphone.
Okay. Hey, let me just get to this before the show's done. Last time, Tom said he puts a lot of confidence into personality assessments that TJ mentioned. People got mad because we wouldn't name any of them, but in a tweet, he did name 3. And he told us the reason for his hesitation, but he said there's tests and there's tests. There's some tests that are proven to work well. Tom, can you tell me about that? Like, how do they assess?
Yeah. Okay. I think the main point I'm trying to make here is that there are criteria for evaluating whether a test works or not and how well it works. And typically, it's as simple as this, is has that instrument, that tool, been used in high-stakes situations where people take it because they are motivated to get a job and they have every incentive to lie, deceive, and portray themselves in an unrealistically positive way. And yet, even in those circumstances, their scores are correlated with their future job performance. And then to what degree do they correlate with their future job performance? So if the tests predict future job performance, they work. And there's a final point that is important is where is that data published? Is it just published in the commercial vendor white papers or marketing materials of the vendors, or is it published in reputable, independent, academic, peer-reviewed scientific journals? So all I would say is that these are, in my view, the most objective and reliable parameters to evaluate whether a tool works or how well a tool works. And I think part of the debate that we had last time is based on the fact that 90 or 95% of the tools that are out there are very bad, and they make the science of personality assessment a discredit.
Okay, so when the recruiters complain to you that their experiences with these personality assessment tools were no good, they were being honest and they were being correct, because you also said in this tweet, you said the majority of these tests have 0 or BS numbers behind them. So they're not okay. So and
but I
then
think that is something that applies to every category of products out there. I think the majority of the typical or average coffee that people consume is not very good. The typical beer that people consume is not very good. The typical restaurant orange juice, the typical music that people listen to is not very good. And yet,
Tomas,
these things are popular.
So
there's a lot of problems that you've brought up, and I think we get it, right? What I'm really interested in hearing is, like, what are the practical steps that you take in a company to make your selection process better?
Okay, well, hold on one sec. He actually offered 3 names of companies, and I want people to know what they are. Hogan Assessments. You used to be the CEO there, am I right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so you know the company. You're biased. Okay, fine, but that's one that you say is proven good. The other one is NEO, NEO, and the third one is...
That's the name of the actual tool. That's the name of the actual tool, NEO FFI or NEO PR, and the third one is IPIP, which is a free version of that. The 3 are based on the same model, which is there's 5 major personality dimensions that range from 0 to 100, and they have thousands of independent peer-reviewed academic studies behind them to back them up. And which is why I highlight them. Compared to these 3 tools, the others have either very dubious statistics or very limited amount of data in their support.
Okay, so now we'll go to I guess it's TJ again. His question: how can we use your? Let me pose the question.
Yeah.
How can we use this knowledge that you've given us today in recruiting CEOs or some kind of leadership roles? And you've given a general, stay away from flashy people, or even if they're flashy, like Jerry, add some breadth to that. Don't just focus on one impressive thing about them. Look at a wide range of qualities. Is that your answer, or is there something are there questions that we should use in interviews? Like, is there anything more detailed than that?
Look, I think that the best and most direct way to approach this for an organization is to actually try it. I think the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. So put leaders within the organization, or managers or employees, through the tools that are being vetted or considered, and see to what degree they can discriminate between better performing employees and worse performing employees. And by the way, I think this is something that can be done and should be done with any methodology. It should be done even with the recruiter's own views or opinions. It should be done with interviews. It should be done. So, that's the best way to find out. And, really what the field is lacking is opportunities to simultaneously try multiple vendors and multiple tools. But that would be the ideal way of doing it. And that's the way academic research is done in this area. You put 2,000 or 20,000 or 200,000 people through these different methods: interviews, structured, unstructured, different personality tests, intelligence tests, past performance data, etc. And you see, taking all things into considerations, which are the ones that actually predict performance better.
What if I told you that your boss skydives, Tim in marketing is a magician, and Sam in accounting does sums in his head while standing on his hands? Seeing sides of the people you work with but never see, sides that inform and inspire their work and that can inspire yours, is what The Talent Show is all about. Email me, Tom Alexander, host of The Talent Show, at talentshow@backboneinc.com, and show us what you got. I look forward to seeing you on The Talent Show.
Okay, let's plug your book before the show's over. You got a book coming out about leadership. What's it called?
Yes, so it's called Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders and How to Fix It, and it's out on March the 1st with HBR, but people can find the link on Amazon and the book on Amazon already if they want to pre-order it.
Okay, I'll post that.
Why isn't that so many incompetent people become leaders? Why are you just picking on men in there? That seems like a red herring to me.
Because
very popular and trendy
roughly 70% or 75% of leaders are males. So there's a strong effect there. It's not a side or secondary variable.
Come on, TJ. He said that more men display these characteristics
men and women
that attract
are different.
employers. They're not humble.
Men and women are different.
Overconfident.
You can't compare them one to one. We're biologically different. We think differently.
I don't know. He said it. I don't know. Is it a biological, this humility thing? Is it biological or is it cultural or both?
No.
Tom?
I think both things exist. There are biological differences and there are cultural differences, and they always interact. So it is true that biological differences between men and women exist, and it is also true because you can see that these things are somewhat cyclical and change from one place to another or from one culture to the other, that the context and the environment plays a role as well.
Okay, so it's dangerous.
Thomas, I agree with a lot of you said. It seems like a lot of the criticisms that you've leveled against men are equally valid against a woman.
Yes,
right?
yes,
women can
but
just
look
as be aggressive and assertive.
But can't you see what the issue is? That the default reaction of society, critics, and everyone is to assume that because the majority of leaders are men have an advantage for leadership, and they have more potential, when in fact it's the other way around, because the majority of leaders are competent. So that's what I'm trying to explain, so people understand that there's a big difference between individual career success and actual talent for leadership.
Okay, I got to do my final ad. I don't know how I can build them. I'm left them till the end of the hour. Hey, everybody. Hire Tool is the super-duper sourcing tool, HIRETUAL, and in fact, as I say every week, it doesn't matter even if I do their ad because everyone's given them all kinds of free advertising on all the recruiting groups on Facebook. People say, oh, what's the best sourcing tool for me? I'd say 90% of the people say Hire Tool. There's other good ones there, but Hire Tool appears to be the best, and it's really good at giving you contact information as well. If you want to check it out for free, go to their website, hiretool.com. Download their free Chrome extension. Go on LinkedIn. You won't get kicked off, but it will give you personal and professional emails and phone numbers. You might get people's, their own home numbers or their cell numbers sometimes. And also, here's how you use it. I'll just be very brief. You go to hiretool.com. You don't have to understand Boolean strings and be able to create them yourself in normal, everyday English. You put in your job description. It creates the Boolean string. It creates the search string. It searches a wide range of important websites for you. Facebook, LinkedIn, GitHub, you name it, they got it. It returns a list of potential candidates ranked from top to bottom, guesses their salaries, guesses which ones are going to be ready to leave. Okay? So go check it out. HireTool.com. 5 minutes left, Tom. What should we say? I got to say, by saying women and men are actually different, that's very dangerous to say these days, isn't it? The only thing that's saving you from trouble is you're saying women are actually better than men. But if somebody else will say, yeah, they're different, and they don't have the characteristics that are suited for leaders. Are there any people saying that?
Probably.
Okay, but no scientists, right?
People are saying everything. Well, no, yes, and I'm not saying this to be more or less controversial. I think I'm making a point that has not been sufficiently made before, and it's a data-driven point. That's all. And if people are interested in seeing the argument in more detail, they can read the book or the very short version, which is already published as an article in HBR. It's called "Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders?" So they can see it. It's a great article.
Jerry was implying that you picked the title for political reasons. Am I right about that, Jerry? Didn't you groan about something there? He's left
Look,
already.
it's the same type. The we kept the title from 2012, and it was actually pretty bold and out there for HBR, which has, I believe 70% of its readers are male, to pick that title. And, I think it would irritate more people if more men understood that they are part of the incompetent group that I'm describing. But I think it's natural for many of them to say, oh, yeah, other men are incompetent. I am not.
Last thing, what kind of questions do you ask people to see if they're overconfident or not?
Well, you always need to have some data as benchmark or baseline to evaluate how competent they actually are, and then you ask them, how good do you think you are, and you relate this. I think, the easiest and simplest everyday example that I can think of to illustrate this is think about an Uber driver. Imagine that you ask an Uber driver, compared to other Uber drivers, how good are you? How irrelevant is their answer? It's super irrelevant because Uber can go to their database and see for all the drivers how many journeys they make a day, how much money they bring, how much profit they bring in, how many accidents they have, how they're rated by passengers, whether they're rated for having a clean car, good conversations, etc. And when you're rated 1,000 times, and when you've been working for enough time, how good or bad you think you are as a driver is irrelevant, but it would tell us if you're overconfident, underconfident, or actually capable of self-awareness.
Okay, so returning to TJ's question, if you're actually talking to somebody, how are you going to get that data? What data are you going to look for in a manager, that's public or that you can even ask them for?
And this is a key issue. If they are external, if they're going for a new job outside of the organizations, it's problematic because there is no habit of getting or accessing their past 360s, which I think would be really important and indicative. Their past teams engagement figures, how engaged or disengaged they were, and the KPIs, whether they actually drove good results or not. But we should nonetheless try to do this, and we should create the habit of actually demanding or at least collecting these data, because that's your performance. That's your competence indicators. We're so far looking at limited data such as your CV, your qualifications, etc. It's impossible to tell whether somebody is overconfident or underconfident unless you know how competent they actually are, and that's what these data give you.
Well, that's a bit of a depressing note.
I'm going to ask for KPIs.
You're going to what?
Why not just simply focus on results?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, results.
It's the same thing.
Results.
Exactly.
But you need to have results, and also past performance is very important. But I think the main value of standardized assessments is that they also pick up potential. Performance for jobs you haven't done before. Why? Because you can focus on things such as EQ, people skills, intelligence, learning ability, humility, etc. Things that can be directly assessed with good assessments.
Okay, and on that happy note, thanks everybody. Tom, thanks really for coming back. I'm very happy about it. Talk to you again.
Anytime.
Bye-bye!